Hey everybody, Scoutcrafter here again. Are you seeing that sky? I'm telling you, what a great time, what a great year this has been as far as weather-wise. I know it's been screwy, everything else, but the weather's been great. Look at that sky. I mean, does it get any better than that? Anyway, we got a little bit to talk about today. Let's get downstairs and get started. We're down the shop, and I'm trying to kick around and say, what do I feel like doing? But, you know, I've been tripping over, literally, this vise I picked up. Let's go check it out. It's always a good day for a vise restoration. Okay, what you're looking at here is a Chas Parker number 974. Parker vices are among some of the nicest vices made. This thing, I just weighed it, weighs in at 63.5 pounds. The reason I had to weigh it is because I bought this at Jacktown a while ago from my good friend Bob, who works there and who sells there. And he 60, you can see that there? Had it at $60. And I think I gave Bob 50. I said, Bob, would you take 50? Because it's frozen. It don't operate, you know? It's frozen. So he said, yeah, sure, John. So he gave it to me for $50. But the funny thing is, I was parked where I was parked and where Bob is. It was like a half a mile. And when I was walking with this thing, it's just an awkward thing to carry. And by the time I got back to the car, I think one arm was longer than the other, and I still think it is. But you know what? You see what it looks like. And when you're looking at a vise, the important thing to look at, very important, you look obviously at the jaws. The jaws are in good shape. This back here, see where the 60's written? This is important because if this is beat on, there's nothing you can do. And it's got the original, the wrench down here, the one that, you know, for tightening it up. It's actually in decent shape, but like I said, it's frozen. So let's see if we can take it apart, unfreeze it, and get started. Now, the first step, we removed the screw, and you can see how nicely lubricated the screw was. So that's a good sign, because you hate to see this all rusted up because they're hard to replace. And you can see, remember, there's some shims down here. That's normal, and it could be different. There could be 1 shim, 2 shim, 3, 4. So the shims, because these vices were kind of cast a little bit differently, so they're custom made to get them precision-like. So remember, you got the shims down here, and then it only takes 1 screw to take off this Parker retaining clip here. That's the only thing that holds that screw in. Now, you don't want to use that and back off here because you can see we got some movement. Got a little bit of movement here. You see how it's moving? But the problem is it won't come out because you got some rust down here on the sides here. So instead of trying to bang it out and do some damage, what you do is you squeeze it together, clean this off with a wire brush, and then a little lubrication, it should pop right out. Now, one of the attachments that you can use on your angle grinder is this little cupped wire brush, and they're very cheap when you get them at Harbor Freight. So we're going to use this here. We're going to get rid of this extended rust over here on the sides and the top. We're going to redo it once it's apart, but just to get it apart. And I want you to notice here, it has some lettering. This vise might have been restored at one time before because somebody painted the lettering, or maybe it was from the factory. I don't know. I've never seen one. But look at that, huh? Painted lettering. Never saw that before. Okay, you can see how nice that brand new cupped wire brush works. It's worth it to buy it if you're going to do a vise restoration. But now look, we did this here. Remember, it was frozen before. It wouldn't back out. Now look at this. Look at that. See that? That's why don't mess with trying to damage with threads or anything by trying to back it out. Do a little bit of work first. We'll finish up on here. And Bob's your uncle. Okay, here's the initial cleanup here. We got the rust off here using that cupped wire brush. We're still not finished yet, but this is just the initial rust off. And you can see how nice the castings are and how nice they come up. And also you can see without the rust, I'll show you how easy this will operate. You can see here, put this in here, and you can see it's, it operates very easily. So that's good. Let me show you an interesting part about these swivel base. I preferred vices without a swivel base because I think they're more rigid, but some people prefer them because they're broad. I guess it's what you're used to, you know. I never ran into a situation that I couldn't operate whatever I needed to do without a swivel base. So but this base, the swivel base on the Parkers, are very interesting because it works almost like a brake shoe. And you can see here you have cast iron, you see shoes here that expand, and then you have this little nut with these angles on it that when you tighten the nut, it raises up the angles, which expands the shoe just like a brake would. And really nice little design here, and they work very good. You know, the best that I've found so far, the Parkers really lock up when you hit that little wrench lever and tighten it. These expand, and that really gives you a solid, good vise, swivel vise base. Okay, here we are. Got a few hours into this, and all the rust is gone. Everything is ready for primer, and all the grease, the rust, and everything is looking real good. We just have to, like I said, we got to prime it. All done. You know, a little extra work on the wrench, things like that. You know, details and things like that we're going to do, but everything is ready. Now, unfortunately, we got a high humidity rate, and you don't paint when it's high humidity. It just doesn't work out. So what we're going to do is we might just shellac everything and go from there, because I don't even know what color I want to make it. I know I don't want to make this a shelf queen. I just want to make this as a good user vise. So let's get some shellac on it when the humidity drops a little bit, and we'll come now back. I'm a bit of a vise fanatic. You know, I must have 2 dozen or more vices, and what I like to do is I always like to make the fit is really important to me, and how the vise operates, you know. And first of all, you know, the jaws have to be aligned and nice and tight. But what I do is I remove the screw holder here so that this will slide back and forth. And it was very tight before. Now what happens is anytime you see somebody banging with a hammer on this end of the vise, that's a no-no. I mean, look, I have no problem with people using an adjustable wrench one way or the other, you know, things like that don't bother me. But when you start banging on this, that's a no-no. This is not meant to be banged on. And a lot of times people take advantage of it like they did here. It's a flat piece of metal, and they think that they'll just knock on it. But every time you bang on this, it expands the metal and makes you know, these are precision vices. This little area here was kind of a small anvil type section that was to be banging, but you shouldn't be banging on any part of this. It's not an anvil. So what happens is we had to get this. You can see here I got it now to the point where it slides nice and easy back and forth. There's no lubrication on here, and that's the way it should slide without lubrication. Now we're going to, you know, tweak it up. And to get to that point, what I did is I covered any marks because it was starting to grab halfway down. So I would take a marker and I'd, you know, darken up the area here like this, and then I would slide it in and out and see where it was hitting all along here. And anywhere it was hitting, I would take a file and just lightly just get rid of that high spot on there. You can see it don't take much to take off, and smooth everything out until this is nice and smooth, but still tight from side to side. There's no play. You don't want to take too much off, but just enough that you get rid of any high areas or burrs or things like that that could slow your vise down. Again, it has to stay solid. These are really good vices. Now, a lot of machinists usually used to like these Parkers because they really are close to a precision vise, and I'll show you what I mean. Now, when you take your vise like this, you see the tolerances here are so tight that if you notice, when I pull the jaws from one side to the other, it doesn't wobble or cock from one side to the other. And when you put something in one edge of the vise, now normally you try and keep anything in the middle of the vise, but there are times when you're cutting a small bolt or something. But watch when I put this file in here and I crank down, you notice that this is exactly the same size of a space here from this edge all the way down. There's no cocking of the vise, and that's a good quality, that's a tight fitting vise. And what happens is if you have a vise that starts to canter or cock from one side to another, that has some slop in the vise. And that's why a lot of machinists used to like this vise, because it's very, you could see it's a precise vise for this size and shape. Compare that gap to this inexpensive Asian vise. You could see here how the gap narrows as it goes to the other side because the vise is cocking. The thing that Park is, you got to be careful. See this area here? This is what holds the yoke in here like this. And if this has to slide very, very easily, and it wasn't. It was pinching on here, and you could see I had to add a little shim. You see that aluminum shim I put in there? I had to make an aluminum shim and place it in there so that this would, still be tight against there, but spin nice and easily. It's not hooked up here, but, and there could be no play back and forth like this, forward and backward. And that's what you have to always, this is another problem a lot of the Parkers, had, that you have to be careful of, that this part. Okay, now all the parts are absolutely rust free. We wiped everything down with the regular isopropyl 90% alcohol first. Now we're going to wipe it down with a denatured alcohol right before we shellac all the parts. And the parts we're going to shellac is anything here that's kind of a rough cast iron. It's a paint prep, but it'll also protect it from rusting. What we won't shellac is up here, these nice polished jaws up here, up there. And we won't shellac this area here because that we will wax and we want that nice and smooth. But everything else that can rust, we're going to put a coat of shellac on right now. Okay, the vise is together. Everything is lubricated. It's all ready for the final paint is all we need. To lubricate it, mostly what I use is my original 50/50. That's half grease, half 30, straight 30 motor oil. And I got a video on that. This one here, look at, do you remember the wrench? Now, they didn't really pay any attention to the fit and finish on this wrench, did they? Well, here we have it now. You can see what it looks like, all polished up. And that really makes or breaks this, when you have a nice polished smooth wrench on here to tighten it up. Okay, like I said, this thing is a dream because it slides so nice and easy. But as soon as you give this a quarter turn on here, that is locked up. It's not going anywhere. And if you really crank down on it like that, forget it. That's as solid as can be. So really nice setup on here. Look how smooth the action is now. Look at this. Is that unbelievable? I mean, this is the way these vices are supposed to operate. I didn't put any lubricant on here. I just wiped this whole slide down with 336. I keep that dry because if you put any grease or anything on there, it's a magnet for dust and chips and things like that. Let me show you the jaws. The jaws on here have about 95% or more of their original cut knurling. They're still almost sharp. And I'll tell you, you can do damage on anything you crank down on, but that's why they make soft jaws for these. But they're in really good shape. No need to remove these jaws. I made that mistake once before. I mean, you're going to polish the tops out anyway, so, why remove them? It just makes no sense. And because when you put them back, these are set from the factory, and they're on there. So I don't like to remove them if I don't have to, if they're not damaged. One of the features of the Parker vices that a lot of vices didn't have is this little screw here. And in this screw is a spring and a ball bearing. And you could see that this way it stops and you can adjust it for if you want it to slide on its own. But I like it just like this because you can just put this wherever you want. And if you need more torque, you just hit it out that way and you have more torque. So I always like that feature because I like to keep mine pretty much in the middle, Now, I didn't paint this vise yet because, first of all, I have so many different vices that are painted so many different colors and whatnot, I would have to think. But something, I have to tell you, there is a beauty, isn't there, to a natural cast finish like this. I didn't even do the letters or anything. All this is just shellac, a little bit of grease oozing out the bottom here, a little bit of shellac, and just all clean metal. Now, I know there's a group of you out there who love this look, this industrial steel look, and let me know what you think in the comments. Do you think I should leave it like this or paint it? Like I said, it's all protected now. Because the shellac protects the metal, but all you have to do is put an occasional coat of oiling on something or whatever to keep it running, operating smoothly. But that's it for this vise. I hope you enjoyed this one. This was a lot of fun. Now, the Charles Parker Company was formed in 1832 in Meriden, Connecticut. It was a huge company and produced hundreds and hundreds of different products, but they were known for their vices, in particular because they were such high quality. They ran to 1957 when they sold out to Union. So in closing, thanks very much for tuning in. Check out that sky again, huh? Every single day, bright skies, blue with white puffy clouds. Couldn't get better than this. Take care now. Have a nice day. Bye-bye. Now, you know my favorite part. Remember what this vise looked like before we started? And we're calling this project done. Look at this vise.